so we can just talk whatever you want, which this is different for me because I'm usually the one interviewing people, not being interviewed. So, don't mind me while I have a hot flash.
No, you're fine.
I got vaccinated, and I feel like that's part of the side effects for me. Like, I've been getting like a severe hot flashes ever since.
Really?
Yes.
That's really strange.
Yeah, like it's I'm only 41. It's not that time yet.
Yeah, I was like, you don't look anywhere near hot flash age.
But here, let me tell you. So, bear with me if you see me start to sweat profusely.
No worries.
But, so, I don't know. What do you want to ask me?
Where, by your terms, where does your story start? Did you grow up here?
So, I was born in Staten Island, New York.
Okay.
Well, actually, I was born in Brooklyn, New York, raised in Staten Island. And, I moved up to Delaware. So growing up, we always had like a vacation home up here, weekend home, whatever you want to call it. And my parents always wanted to relocate up to here. My parents relocated, and then a few years later, I followed suit. I was already active in my addiction. And I came up here for 6 months to get clean. That was my goal. Like I wasn't staying here. Like nobody stays here. I wasn't staying here. This was my mindset, you know, geez. This was in December of 2005, so that's how long ago it was. So I came up here and my family navigated drug and alcohol for me, and I started my journey of attempting to get clean, and it did not work. And I ended up in 2007 was the first time that I went to prison. I went to prison for grand larceny charges due to my substance use disorder. I came home. I did a year on parole. And as soon as I was done with parole, right back at it I was. I had no toolbox of sobriety. I had no way of knowing how to stay sober. Like I didn't work on myself. I didn't have a program. I didn't have anything. I just was like, I got this. Like, oh, I stayed clean this long. Not realizing the reason why I stayed clean was because I had to. I just thought like, oh, I'm fixed. I'm better. I had no clue that this is a disease. I had no clue about childhood traumas. I had no clue about any of it. Like, I didn't know any of it. And I got back in it just as hard as I left it. I think I actually got back in it harder, to be quite honest. Where beforehand it was just pills, and then it had progressed into heroin very, very briefly. I immediately intravenously used heroin. There was no pussyfooting around it for me. There was no let's sniff it, nothing. I immediately jumped right in, feet first, like everything else in my life. And when I went back out in 2009, it literally picked up right where it left off, but worse. And by 2010, I was reincarcerated.
Wow.
On a new charge, grand larceny as well. And I got sentenced to 3 to 6. And I got really, really blessed and was able to get Willard. And after I did Willard, I have never touched heroin again since then. So, you know, that was the tip of the iceberg for me with starting to understand that addiction is a disease and that I needed to retrain myself as far as, you know, repetition and getting up every day and making my bed. And I learned things from certain DIs there that still stick with me to this day. When I came home, that's when I ended up getting pregnant with my daughter, Bella. And that was a whole crazy situation. Her dad was also on parole. So was I. We ended up getting violated on parole for not showing up, not reporting. And that's how I led to end up having my daughter in prison. So I had my daughter in Bedford Hills Correctional Facility in 2011. I did 18 months on a violation. We came home in 2013, February of 2013. I paroled back to Delaware County, where I then proceeded to be a single mom. Her dad ended up committing suicide.
Oh, jeez.
Mm-hmm. everything was going well. I started a business, a soap making business, where I did like handcrafted soaps and lotions and candles and all types of Bath and Body Works products and stuff. And it did really well. But again, I had no program. I had never worked on myself. I had never worked on the issues that caused me to have a substance use disorder. And as soon as things got super, super good and, you know, my business got really productive and I started making money and all these things started happening, the first thing I thought was, I'm going to go have a drink. Like, I'm going to go out. I'm a single mom. I own a business. Everything is going well. I'm going to go out. I'm going to meet some friends and I'm going to have a drink. And that's what I ended up doing. And drinking to me, I don't have a problem with alcohol, but I have a problem with cocaine. And that's where alcohol leads me every single time. So I am very mindful now that I don't drink alcohol, because even I do this thing in my mind where I say, like, cocaine is not my drug of choice, so it's okay.
Right.
You know, this is how my disease works. Like, I rationalize this bullshit in my head to say, like, oh, it's not my drug of choice, so it's cool. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay. Which we all know it's not. Now, in hindsight, I'm like, yeah, bad. But, so then I met my husband in 2015. And he was sober from alcohol for 9 years at the time. And when he and I first met, we had a very interesting relationship. We had like a love-hate relationship. You know, like we wouldn't leave each other, but we couldn't stand each other, but we loved each other. Like, it was a it was your typical using addict relationship. So when we first got together, he was still doing cocaine and I was just starting back into doing cocaine. So all of a sudden we had this common foundation of drugs. And starting any relationship with drugs as your foundation is a recipe for disaster. So we got together. We moved in very, very quickly. He has children from a previous marriage. I have my daughter from a previous marriage. And we were fueled by anger and addiction. And it was... I know, it was crazy. It was, I don't know why we stayed together at that point. And, you know, then all these crazy things happened and one thing led to another and he ended up losing his job. I wasn't working, probably due to the fact of our addiction. You know, we were very unstable. And I was like, we're going to sell methamphetamines. Like, there's no one in the area selling it. People are looking for it all over the place. This is a great idea. And he was like, this is a fucking horrible idea. And I was like, this is spectacular. We're going to do it. And he was like, whatever. And we sold methamphetamines. And for a year, we ran rampant in this county selling drugs. It was, well, I shouldn't say we. I was the one who was selling drugs. He was just kind of along for the ride because I told him to be. And we got caught. Thank God. In a sense, thank God, because I was 82 pounds when we got arrested.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I can show you some mugshots. They're crazy. So, getting arrested saved my life. Literally saved my life. Even if I had chosen to go back out afterwards, I needed that time to physically to catch up because I was deteriorating. You know, some of the officers in the Delaware County Jail would tell me, you know, months after being there and for me, like gaining weight and stuff, they would say, we would walk by and make sure you were breathing like we thought you were going to die.
Wow.
I'm not an 82 pound kind of gal. So 82 pounds on me was scary. I ended up getting sentenced in 2018. Yeah, because I got arrested October 27th of 2017. I got sentenced in, I can't remember if it was March of 2018. I got sentenced to 3 years of incarceration, 2 years post-release supervision. I did a 1.5 years inside regular prison. And then I decided I miss my family, I miss my kid. I've worked on myself enough. I've been enough time here. I want to go home. And then I went to the shock incarceration program and I did Lakeview Shock in Brockton, New York. It's 6 months of military boot camp. And it is difficult. It is difficult. Males get their head shaved completely. Females get their hair shaved to 1/4 of an inch. Every 2 weeks you get a haircut.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. You PT for 45 minutes every day. You wake up at 5 a.m. You run to the corner of your cube. You yell to count off at Reveille. You have DIs, which are drill instructors instead of corrections officers. You have military bearings at all times. You PT for 45 minutes. After that, you run for 3 miles every day. The only time is if there's too much snow or if it's thundering lightning.
Wow.
You randomly PT throughout the day. Peter pays for Paul, Paul pays for all. You do something wrong and I'm standing next to you. Well, guess what? Me, you, the person behind you, and maybe 5 up, just for shits and giggles, they're paying for it too. Wow. You get 3 minutes to eat. No, I'm sorry. 8 minutes to eat, 3 minutes to shower. Comes in handy not having any hair.
Yeah.
And then you learn to depend on your platoon and your platoon learns to depend on you. And I hate the shock program, but in the same breath, I love everything about it. It literally helped me save my life. So there are a few things that really, for some reason this time around, really stuck. One of them, when I was in Delaware County Jail, was Pastor Derek Johnson. He works for ADDIC. He goes into the jails and he is a recovery coach. And he's also a pastor at the Delhi Church, the one all the way out at the end of town on 28 on the right-hand side. I don't want to say it's the Alliance, but it might be. I think
it is. Yeah.
I'll have to look if you want to use him. But, and I did a whole video with him actually. He loved me when I couldn't love myself. And still to this day, he's in my life. And I appreciate him more than I'll ever know. You know, I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror back then. And he would come in every day that he came in and he would talk to me like I was a person. And I learned so much from him as far as how to treat other people, but also how to love myself again. And when you're in that state, that's a really, really hard obstacle to overcome because as addicts, nobody kicks our ass more than we do. And he just was like a ray of hope and light during one of the darkest times in my life. You know, I've been incarcerated before, and maybe because I'm a mom now, back then, whatever, it was part of the game. It just really didn't affect me. This time, I don't know if it's because I'm older, because I really felt a loss, because I truly knew I knew better than what I was doing. But it hit different. And I don't know. And then once I got to regular prison, something was different about me. I stayed sober the entire time I was incarcerated, which in itself is a feat because there's more drugs inside than there are outside. I mean, really? It's insane. I mean, I've seen everything from cocaine to K2, marijuana is everywhere, Suboxone, heroin. I mean, you name it, it's in there. I think the only thing that I have not seen on the inside is ecstasy. I've seen salvia. I mean, it's crazy. The stuff that comes in, it's crazy. Stuff that I wouldn't even mess with on the outside. I'm like, why would you trip out in prison? Right. I don't even understand. It's crazy. Yeah. So I stayed sober the entire time I was incarcerated. And then finally I said, you know what? I want to go home. And I asked my counselor to switch me to see if I was shock eligible. And it's a process because they have to send your papers. It has to go to Albany. Albany has to approve it. Then they have to wait for a platoon to be available. It's not like shock doesn't leave every week for females because there's not enough females to have all these all these big platoons. It's 2 platoons with individual platoons within them.
Okay.
So within 3-4 weeks, I was fortunate. It happened very quickly. So within 3-4 weeks, I went for a medical because you have to be shock ready. And I went, and my platoon formed in the end of December. And I graduated June 24th of 2019. Yes, 2019. And I came home from prison.
So is shock sort of like this, you do it in exchange for early release? Is that how that works?
I probably will get a lot of slack for saying this, but that's cool. I'm used to it. I have a tough skin these days. I feel everyone that has a substance use disorder, alcohol, drugs, whatever, should be required, mandated by the state to do shock. It forces you to look at yourself in the mirror when you don't want to. The counseling, so you have ASAT, alcohol and substance abuse treatment, which inside in regular prisons, it's a joke. In shock, they make you, because they can give you a direct order. In prison, they can give you a direct order, but you can be like, not today, and just go to the hole. Like, you don't, in shock, you lose your program. Some people got 5, 4, 3, 2 years to do. 6 months versus 2 years, I'm going to bite my tongue. You know what I mean? So they make you, like, I remember I had to write this one letter, and then it, like, the entire 3 months, I knew it was coming. I knew they were going to say something, because every time they would ask me this, I would beat around the bush around it, and I knew it, and I just didn't want to talk about it. And finally they were like, this is what you're going to do. You're going to write this letter. It's a no-send letter. And I was like, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I was shitty about it because I didn't want to do it, because it was very personal and very hurtful, and it was very heavy for me. And then she was like, all right, on top of it, you're going to find 2 platoon sisters, and you're going to share it with them before anyone else. So you're going to get feedback. You know how hard it is to get face-to-face feedback on something so personal and so heavy that you've carried with you your whole life? And the feedback that I got was absolutely not what I expected. When I shared my story, girls cried with me. They sympathized with me. They understood. Like, they were like, wow, I'm so sorry that happened to you. And for the first time in my life, I was able to put some of that baggage down, because I realized I'm not wrong for feeling like this was wrong. I'm right. This was not appropriate. This was not okay. I was not in the wrong. I did not do anything wrong. I don't have to carry that anymore today. And it made me a different person. I don't carry that anymore. I know things that happened during these situations were not my fault. The other person was sick, you know, but sometimes you have to hear from perfect strangers for you to be like, oh wait, maybe I'm not at fault for that. That wasn't a normal circumstance, you know? So I don't think I ever would have worked on any issues like that if I hadn't been forced to. If I hadn't been afraid to lose my freedom, you know, I would have been like, yeah, we'll just skip over that one. Right. Because anytime I did any type of, you know, treatment court or treatment outside, or, you know, drug and alcohol, I'd always bullshit my way through. It's what we do best. We're master manipulators. So, you know, and I know all of that has led me to be who I am today.
That's really incredible.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. You know, I mean, and now I because of everything that I've been through, I don't know, I just want to go back into my community and help my fellow addicts, you know, like, because I'm an addict. I will die an addict. I will never not be an addict. I have a disease that I will carry with me at all times. By the grace of my God, it will stay in remission for the rest of my life. But at any point in time, it can come back and kick my ass too. And I am not naive to that fact at all. And, you know, I get extreme, I don't want to say, like, it's the wrong word to say like pleasure or joy, but for me to be able to go back and help the people that I once used with that are still struggling, like, that service work is a feeling I've never felt before in my life. And it keeps me sober, it keeps me sane, and it keeps me grounded. And it just makes me grateful for all that I've accomplished and all that I have. And I'm just blessed. Like, I'm truly, truly blessed. It is by the grace of my God that I still stand, because I should have been dead many times over. I shouldn't still be here. Like, You cannot hold your hand over the fire that long and not get burned. And I'm still here. So, you know, I came home and I started working with a recovery coach. His name is George Feaster, and he is still in my life till this day. Actually, he was just at my house yesterday. And he said something to me, and for some reason it still stays with me because it's so incredibly accurate. He's always like, slow down on the hamster wheel. Take this lap out. Slow down. You're on a hamster wheel. Slow down. And it's still the truth. I am an addict through and through, and I just have to keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. You know, and I'm like that in my personal and professional career. You know, but now it's for good things. Where back in the day, it was for, you know, I got to get more, I got to do this, and it was never there was never positive that surrounded that, that's for sure. But now, you know, the more, the bigger, the this, the that, it's to help other people. And it's extremely rewarding. Maybe that's the word I'm looking for. Rewarding. Mm-hmm. You know, and I'm a CARC, which means I am a recovery coach. I'm a certified addiction recovery coach. I'm a CRPA, which means I'm a certified advocate. So I also am a Narcan trainer, and I'm a syringe peer, and I'm a rape crisis counselor, and I volunteer through Safe Against Violence at Delaware Opportunities. So I use all of those items in my everyday life. You know, I now developed a program called Supplies for Life. I'm in the process. I'm actually crowdfunding to turn it into a not-for-profit. I actually just sent the retainer to the lawyer on Saturday so he can start the paperwork so I can become my own agency. I have my board already all done up. I also just accepted a position at ADDIC to be the new peer to go into the Delaware County Jail. It's kind of surreal for me because 4 years ago, I was there. And the fact that now I get to go in there and I get to say to people, like, you can come out on the other side of this. Like, 4 years ago, I was in Orange. I sat in your seat. I thought my life was over. I thought I was going to prison forever. And I thought I was going to come home and life was just going to suck. I would have to be sober. I'd have to be on parole. I'd have to, like, be normal. And it would just be vanilla. And it would absolutely suck. And that's so not the case. Like, especially now, the way the world is changing, it's such a beautiful thing. Like, people, more and more, unfortunately, more and more people are convicted felons, but it's not the same bad feeling as it used to be, you know? And people are fighting for more human rights. And, like, that's the only way that I can say it, like, human rights. Like, because I always say, like, if you treat a person like a human, you get a human. You treat a person like an asshole, well, you reap what you sow. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, yes, I am an addict. I'm a convicted felon. I have done shitty things in my life, but I'm a human being first. And in no matter what situation, whether you're a cop, a priest, a fellow person in recovery, a person who is still active, if you come at me like a human, I'm going to give you all the respect and dignity in the world. But if you come at me some sort of way, I'm going to come back at you twice as hard because it's just survival, you know? So that's why, I mean, I came home from prison and had to live in the shelter. I know what it's like to not have fresh panties. I know what it's like to be a female and not have any feminine products. I mean, do you want to go on a job interview and you don't have toothpaste? You know what I mean? Yeah. Do you want to go see your kid for the first time after being gone for 2-3 years and not have clean underwear or clean socks to put on? Because I know I didn't. And if it wasn't for some people that I met that, like, cared enough for me as a human being to throw me a couple of, like, supplies here and there, I wouldn't have had any of that either. That's why, like, my go bags are so detrimental to me as a person. Because I'm not giving people a bag of hygiene items. I'm giving people a bag of humanity. You know, like, it is so incredibly important for people to realize you want people to come back out of prison or rehab or whatever their situation, mental institutions, because unfortunately that's where our disease does lead us. And we do not discuss mental health enough. We just sweep it under the rug and pretend like if we don't look at it, it's not there until the lump is so big we cannot get past it. And then we want to make a big deal about it, but that's a whole nother thing.
Right.
So people come home where they've been in prison, treated like dogs, starving all the time because you don't nearly get enough food. You barely get enough to drink. And then you want them to come home and reacclimate back into society and be these perfect people, which nobody in society is. But because they're on parole or because they've been to a mental institution or a rehab, all eyes are on them, which makes it even harder.
Right.
And you have nobody that gives any type of reentry program in Delaware County whatsoever because everyone just assumes you're supposed to know what to do. And then we throw people in this shelter, which provides nothing because all that they can possibly provide is shelter because it costs so much money, which I get. But then you go to the food bank or you get food stamps. You don't get toilet paper. You don't get deodorant. You don't get toothbrush. And as far as I'm concerned, these are basic human needs. Like, these are not extravagant wants. They are what every human being wakes up to every morning who lives in a home, who is fortunate enough to have this. But then we have these people who come home and they have nothing. And then we get pissed off when they go back to their old neighborhoods or their old people. Because who can live without toilet paper? Man, woman, who can live without clean panties? Like, do you know how debilitating it is to wake up every morning and have to take the socks off your feet and wash them before you can go anywhere?
Jeez.
Like, it sucks. And people are so judgmental, and people constantly say things like, oh, well, if you couldn't do the time, you shouldn't do the crime. Okay, well, I'm sorry, but my mental illness led me to do the crime. My substance use disorder led me to do the crime, because when I'm not doing those things, I'm an amazing human being. But when I am active, I am horrible because my disease takes control of me. And it is like a fight with the devil inside your head and your heart every day. And it's debilitating. So I remember what it's like to be there. And I know what it feels like to have absolutely no one and nothing. It is scary. It is lonely. You feel like, well, I just did all this time on the inside to come home to nothing and no one. Why? For what?
Right.
You don't even want to hug your kid when you smell like BO. You know what I mean? You want to go see your parents? No one wants to see your parents when they are embarrassed to talk because they have bad breath because they haven't been able to brush their teeth since they left prison. So that's where this stuff came from. I made an Amazon wish list, and at first it was just non-alcoholic hygiene items that were hermetically sealed so they could go to rehabs with people. And I got little tiny drawstring backpacks, and every person that I either facilitated rehab for or know someone who else did, I would give that to them before they left. And then it turned into parent supplies during COVID. And I got diapers and formula and wipes and started doing that. And then from there, it went to food, because food banks are amazing, but you can only go once a month. And I know I need food for more than once a month, Think about how many times you go grocery shopping. You don't go once a month. And if you do, you go to like BJ's and like blow it out of the water, right? Well, you go to the food bank, and according to how many people you have in your house, that's how many cans of like beef stew you get. And I have lived out of the food bank many, many times in my life. And half the stuff they give you, you need other stuff to be able to cook it, or you need knowledge of how to cook. Like, I suck at rice. You know what I mean? I can't imagine some single guy really knowing how to properly cook rice, or, I'm sure there's some that do, but do you know what I mean? Like, there's so many things. Yes, it's helpful, but also, during the pandemic, I received some boxes from some of the food banks, and there was like a bag of rice, a bag of pasta, a jar of sauce, and like a couple cans of peaches. Well, it's great. It's useful for like a day and a half. But then after that, what are people supposed to do?
Right.
And toilet paper. Tampons, pads. Or how about a nursing mother who needs breast pads? Those are things that are never thought about. And they're super expensive, and they're a necessity. Even if you're not breastfeeding and you just had a baby, they are a necessity. Nobody wants to cut sanitary napkins and put them in their bras because they're leaking. But imagine being a new mom who has to go back to work, and their baby starts crying and their boobs know, and then all of a sudden they're leaking all over the place.
Right.
That's a reality of life. When you are in a poverty situation, you cannot afford certain things.
Right.
But you're trying your hardest. You're going to work. You're doing the right thing. You're working your program, whatever that might be. And you're doing what you need to do. When do we stop telling people to fill out forms and actually give them help? So here I am. And I fill out all the forms. And I give people, I don't know if you want to look in here, but so this is actually going to someone after I leave here. These are Sharps containers.
Okay.
So these are what I give my people to, put their used items in. And I collect them once a week. And then I return them to the syringe exchange that I work for. This is just some extra stuff that I had. I'm doing Mother's Day baskets and for the ladies that I work with, and then I donate 2 to the shelter every year. So these I just had extra. Somebody bought me like 3 bags of them. There was like 24 pieces in each bag, and I didn't need that many, so I've just been giving them. A good friend of mine, Jordan Barnes, actually wrote this book. It is like the bestseller on Amazon, and yeah. So he sent me a case of them to donate to the people that I work with. I actually gave 4 yesterday to Sheriff DeMond to put 1 in each pod in the jail as a pod book. So this way when people first come in and they are required now because of COVID to quarantine for 14 days, they at least have something to read. And it's an incredible, raw, very accurate book of homelessness, recovery, jail, what he went through, and I am honored to call him my friend. And I do sports bras and panties and stuff, so that's going to, they live together, they're roommates of sorts. These are individual Sharps boxes. I give everybody one. They fit in a purse nicely or a pocket. And then I just include some safe supplies, some smokeware in here, glass pieces. I just actually gave them a food bag last week, but a situation came up where they needed other supplies. So I just gave them some snacky foods this time. I got a donation locally from someone of a bunch of this. I never get stuff like this. So I figured they would enjoy, here's some lotion, crackers. These I actually just got in little first aid kits.
Okay.
Yeah, I try and get food, good food. This is a poor example. And then some soups. I try and do things that are very easy to cook. Because this, I do deal with people who live in tents and who are 100% homeless. So this makes it easier. This you can just actually open and eat. You don't even have to warm it up. Right. So I try and, I have cups like this of rice and potatoes. Even if you just put water in it and let them sit, you can eat them. You don't have to heat them up. So I try and be mindful that some people don't have cooking access. These are just some cakes that are all squished. Crackers. Crackers are a big thing because they stay long, and I try and be mindful. People who are in active addiction sometimes have a hard time digesting a lot of food. Constipation is a real issue. Normally, I include fresh fruits and vegetables, but I didn't get any donated this week.
So overall, it seems like this program, this nonprofit that you're developing here, is sort of filling in the gaps where there isn't, you're providing that human element. It really seems like it's not just.
So I can connect with a community, a group of our community, I guess I should say. I'm always calling them my community. I don't own them. That other facilities and other places just can't, because stigma is a real thing, and they're constantly tired of being stigmatized and being judged and put down and stared at and criticized, and just that shit gets old, and Like, I know when I was 80 something pounds and I went to DSS, they never once did they ask me if I needed help, but they damn sure stared at me. You know, so I go in, I'll test their drugs. You know, like, you need to not do that. That's a hot shot. Like, go slow. Or, I mean, oh my God, I Narcan train everyone and their mama. I get my Narcan from Chief Mills in the Delhi Police Department. He knows what's up. He knows things need to change. I think slowly but surely they're finally starting to. You know, it's a balance. We live in an area where you cannot just go and shove something in someone's face. You will not be received well and you will be shut down. And I respect that. I understand that. We need to start slowly. We need to educate people, the authorities, and people in active addiction and in recovery. We all need to cut each other a little slack.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like we are so against the authorities and the authorities are so strong-minded against us and that's not getting anyone anywhere except a really harsh line drawn in the sand. So I try and use my story and my experience for the greater good of both sides. You know, I can advocate for my community in a much more positive way by using my words properly, doing the next right thing, being agreeable, admitting when I'm wrong, and just doing the next right thing. You know, believe it or not, and I never thought these words would come out of my mouth, I have a wonderful relationship with the sheriff of this county. I didn't know, I was never a fan of his, to be quite honest. And I was wrong for that. I never gave him a chance. Until one day, a mutual friend was like, you guys need to talk. You're going to be on this committee and you need to talk to him. And I sat down and I talked to him and I walked out of there and I said, boy, was I wrong. And he's proven every single time that I've gone to him with something how wrong I really was. Because he gives everybody a forum. He listens to everybody. He has a job to do and I think he does it well. And he is open to ideas. He is open to change. And he wants to see the community do well. And I don't think that's everybody's opinion as far as wanting to see certain communities do well. But I do think it is his. You know? I have a husband who is my absolute best friend in life. We have been through, good God, active addiction, losing children, you know, because of our addiction, family members, prison, afterwards, relapses. I mean, just everything. We've been through everything together and we have come so far as a couple and we are so incredibly strong because of it. And he is my absolute rock in life. He is my best friend. I don't know how he deals with me sometimes. Sometimes I don't know how I deal with him, but we work through it. And he's like, babe, we got boxes where you want me to carry them to. Like, you know, he supports my bullshit 100%. And I'm incredibly blessed to have him in my life. He's just amazing. And I have friends and family that I never thought that I would have. And sometimes I'm like, is this really my life? Like, is this my life? This June 24th will be 2 years I'm home from prison.
Wow.
And this is the life that I've made, busting my ass for 2 years. Sometimes I can't believe it.
Yeah, that's a lot to be proud of.
I didn't do it on my own. Like, by the grace of my God, I'm here. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of people get funny when it comes to stuff like that. And I don't care who you believe in or what you believe in. But everybody has to believe in something. And this would not have happened if I didn't believe in somebody or something.
Right, that's the concept of a higher power, right?
Correct.
12 steps, yeah.
You know, and I'm not a yay AA, because AA never liked me. I'm not an alcoholic. NA was always very taboo to me. And I don't work a program to the AA, NA, you know, specifications. But I have my own program in a sense. And the steps where, you know, if you want to get back to the philosophy of the program, the steps make a lot of sense. And I do use a lot of them. But I have molded them into my own sort of program, and I do certain things. Like every day I get up, I make the bed. I wash the sink. I know it sounds silly, but I wash the sink out after I brush my teeth. There are certain things, like no matter what's going on in my day, that I do them just because they're part of my routine. And there's something, my shoes go in the same spot every night when I take them off. And those are all things that are embedded in me from shock. And when you're in recovery and you're having a bad day and you feel like you're close to relapse or you're feeling squirrely or whatever, it's the steps of routine that get you from 1 minute to the next minute that keep you sober. And those things are so incredibly powerful for me. So the fact that I get up every day and I make my bed, or I organize my nightstand, or those are just things that keep me level. And I know they sound so silly to say, but it's just, when you're having a crazy day and you walk into your bedroom and your bed is all crazy and everything else, it feeds the crazy. But when you walk into your bedroom and your blanket's fixed properly and your shoes are in the right spot and everything is orderly and you can see what you're looking for, it makes your crazy have to take a step back because there's no more chaos feeding it.
Right, right.
So those are just things that are really important to me. Like my husband will joke around and be like, oh my God, I moved that. I'm sorry. Let me put it back. And I'm like, whatever, but he knows me so well. He knows that those things are unacceptable in my life. So, but yeah, like I do. So this is a bag of 100. I will dole these out in 25s because I try and make it so everybody has some. And then breast pads. I break this box down because these guys you go through like water, obviously. And then wipes. These are like baby snacks, pads, toilet paper. I try and do undergarments, as you saw. These are men's t-shirts. These are size large. Shampoo and conditioners. I give packs of them. Little things of toothpaste. I also have a girl who lives local in the area who's a couponer, and she constantly, like every month, she donates big, huge things of toothpaste to me. So I don't use these donated ones very often because she's so amazing and does that. Face cleaner, baby soap, hand sanitizer, petroleum jelly. But then for clean supplies, these are just cotton balls that I get huge bags donated because I have a harm reduction wish list too. And I break them down into smaller bags. These are individual waterers. And then this is the taboo stuff.
Doesn't scare me.
Okay. These are cookers. So what you do is you put your jugs in here if you're going to mix a shot. I primarily give these when I give test strips, which I am all out of. And unfortunately, they are now $150 box plus shipping and handling for 100 pieces. And I give at least 10 per person because it's one-time use. So what are you going to do with 2?
Right.
Like even the syringe exchange where I am a syringe peer for, last time they delivered supplies, they gave me 8 test strips. I said, so who do I decide gets test strips and who doesn't? And then I just give alcohol prep pads, for, let's see what else is in here. And then these are the real taboo piece that people are like, ooh. So these are syringes. Syringes is the PC way to say needles. So, rigs, clean supplies, freshies, cleanies, them things. I mean, I've heard all types of. So I give these in exchange for return of dirty ones. So every one you give me, you get one. So if you give me up to 200, that's the rules. I didn't make them up. I just abide by them. So if you give me 5, you get 5. Actually, I won't open a bag, so you'll get 10 because I just feel like that's looking for a bad time for me with open bags. We need to stop putting people in jails and prisons. Those types of mass incarceration programs do not work. They just don't. You're taking someone from one bad situation, putting them in another, and then taking them back out and being like, don't go back to that, even though that's all you know, all you have, and we gave you nothing, no type of educational piece, no reentry to make it better when you came out. When you go to prison, you're supposed to go to prison to be what's the word I'm looking for?
Rehabilitated?
Thank you. Rehabilitated. You're supposed to be taught. You're supposed to be shown a better way. What? A better way to sell drugs? Because that's all that happens. Do I think when people get arrested for drug sales and are clearly using, should they be kept in local jail until a program is available, or if they have to do state time, to a program like Shock? Yes. Do I think sending people to prison for 15, 20, 25 years because of drug charges, as far as being an active user? I mean, some of the stuff is absurd. I mean, look, marijuana is now legal. How long do you think it's going to take? Think it's going to take another 80 years to decriminalize the rest of the drugs? I sure as hell hope not. I don't think it's going to take that long. I think it's going to take a while, but I don't think it's going to take that long. But in the meantime, what we are doing is not working. People are dying. Right. They're dying. Your plan is failing. Fix something.
And we're still treating it as a society like it's a personal responsibility, a personal
It's
failing.
not. Yeah. It's not. I mean, could you bring me someone that does not have any effect from this worldwide epidemic? Because I don't know one person that doesn't know somebody who knows somebody or is or has a family member or a child or a grandchild that's not addicted. And by addicted, I mean cigarettes, alcohol, gambling, prostitutes, porn. I mean, addiction is the umbrella. There's many, many, many chains underneath it. Mm-hmm. But there's so many, I mean, eating, the most common one in the world. That's why there's Overeaters Anonymous. That's why there's Gamblers Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Sex Anonymous. I mean, as a society, we indulge because we don't like to deal with the emotional part of our lives. We don't work on childhood trauma. We don't work on relationship trauma. We just jump from the next thing to the next thing to the next thing because it feels good. That shit runs out. Fake euphoria does not last. Your brain does not fully stop developing until age 25. And then you go and you add childhood trauma into it, and addiction and alcoholism and every other thing that has happened in these kids' lives, including my own. You know, I'm not different from them. I'm just older now. So my brain is more mature and I can see the errors of my ways. They're still in the errors. They're not past it yet.
Right.
You know, and then you expect them to be able to do these things that they're just mentally not capable of yet. I just don't get it.
Yeah, and it keeps coming back to, like, as a society, how do we expect them to change or do better when we don't give them the tools to?
Right. So it's basically like saying, I'm going to throw you in this helicopter, figure it out. You'd be like, holy shit, I'm not going to do that. They're going to fucking kill me. They're going to get that shit up in the air and it's going to come down and slit my throat with one of the things. Same principle. Because if you don't give someone the proper tools to recover or be a productive member of society, they're just out there flailing around. How do you not expect casualties?
Right.
The only reason why I feel like I'm as successful as I am is because Shock forced me to make a toolbox. Shock forced me to work on things I didn't want to. So now when shit gets crazy, I'm like, all right, I gotta take a breather. I hug my husband, and that usually makes everything like 70% better. And then I make a list. And then I'm able to visually see what is happening and what plan I need to make. Because I learned to write things down as a form of expression and how to deal with things. I learned tools. I learned things, tricks and trades, whatever fancy little words you want to put on it. I learned how to keep myself in check, how to be productive, how to be mindful. And, you know, I hate that saying like sticks and stones won't break my bones, but names will never harm me or whatever. I'd rather get hit with sticks and stones all day long because that shit heals, and words stay with you forever. They resonate with you forever. So here you have kids that are going into whatever treatment they're in, right? And they're hearing all these horrible things said to them about how they're not this and how they don't do this and how they did this wrong and how this isn't appropriate, blah, 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 blah. And then you send them off. Go do your journals. Go do this. Go do that. And all they hear is how they did this wrong and how this isn't appropriate. So they're like, fuck it, man.
Right. There's no motivation there.
Mm-mm.
It's further stigmatization, it seems
Absolutely.
like. Can you tell me a little bit about sort of the, I mean, I'm not from around here. I grew up in the Binghamton area, but when I came here and I got this job in Oneonta, everybody was like, oh, Delaware County, that's where all the drugs are. That's where everybody uses meth. That's where everybody uses heroin. Can you tell me a little bit, as someone who's lived that, what exactly that looks like? Like, how easy is it to get substances? How much do they proliferate through the community?
Well, sadly, unfortunately, it's everywhere. I mean, it's literally everywhere. So Delaware County operates under a 200% below poverty level.
Yeah.
And it's a family affair, so to speak. Unfortunately, everyone's mom, dad, brother, uncle, cousin, sister, it's hereditary. And as far as substances, well, the two go hand in hand. It's everywhere. I mean, I don't even know how, I know that's such like a flat response. Unfortunately, when you live in such a poverty-ridden area, it's par for the course. There's nothing else to do. There's hardly any jobs around. There's no form of entertainment. I mean, if you think about it, what is there to do entertainment-wise around here?
Not much.
Nothing. And now with the pandemic, there's even less. I mean, last year, the only fun activity that I can think of that was around for the outdoors and for the summer was the drive-in. And it would sell out every weekend because of that.
Right.
And let's face it, if you're drinking or doing drugs, you're not going to the drive-in. You're not, you get into these situations because you're already in the spot, so then you're embarrassed to go anywhere else because the stigma and the judgment. It's just like a vicious circle. It's just shitty. And then you have children in the families that watch this go on, and history just repeats itself.
Right. And I think that also harkens back to the unresolved childhood and relationship traumas. You sort of perpetuate that once if you don't address it.
If you don't stop it, you're inadvertently allowing it to continue, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So if you don't stop something from happening, you're allowing it to continue. So therefore, you're just feeding addiction to the next generation. And it doesn't even just have to be drugs and alcohol. Like, some people are addicted to the chaos of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how to stop it. It's so hard to quit these addictions. And you grow up in a household seeing someone smoke or seeing someone drink or seeing them in and out of active use. You think that's normal. Mm-hmm. The same way people who grow up in a household where they were molested or physically abused or emotionally abused, they think it's normal because it's part of their daily day. And until they get so far removed from it that it smacks them in the face that it's not normal, they don't know any better. I mean, if you grow up in a farm and you see someone milking a cow through its foot your whole life, you think that's normal. And then all of a sudden you go somewhere else and they're milking it through its udder and you're like, holy shit, my whole world is upside down now. But you learn what you live.
Right.
So how do you go and tell someone their whole life was wrong? And to change it, to do something completely different?
Without giving them any tools or any guidance.
Or any guidance or any support. And then you say, so everything you know about life is totally wrong. This is the way. Follow this paper, but figure it all out on your own. And then we wonder why people relapse. That pressure alone, my God.
Right. It seems like as a society we're treating the symptoms, and even then not very well, not the cause.
We're putting a Band-Aid on it. I wouldn't even say we're treating it. We're just taping it up and sending it back out the door.
Yeah, that's